Hello everyone. Today I would like to speak about awakening, enlightenment, and moksha, spiritual liberation, and whatever comes in between or before it, because there are lots of people who have confusion, and some of you asked me in the comments, posted some questions about it. So first of all, we can have a lot of different spiritual experiences, but at the same time there's no alignment. We can also experience, ultimate reality or a subtle being in glimpses, and yet we haven't sort of aligned ourselves with that experience. It hasn't become our being. So there is a lot of confusion on account of these experiences. Now, awakening is when you've return to self. It's the moment of yoga, the moment of absorption, and also conscious acknowledgement, recognition of the state for the ultimate, kind of like our root, a foundation, where consciousness is in a movable state, where it perceives its essence as blissful, content, equanimous being, and much more. Then the body at that point experiences deep relaxation, blissful state, as if you are in a deep sleep, but you're aware. But it doesn't mean, again, that the person is yet established in that. So they have to go through a lot of refinement, a lot of introspection, self-observation, letting go, purgation, dissolution of traumatic responses, trauma in general, dissolution of limited perception of self, karmic residue, corruption of the individual and the collective on different levels, on the ancestral bloodline levels and further on. So that is one thing. Once it's done, let's say the person experiences enlightenment. Enlightenment is the point where once the realization of one's subtle being, or the subtle body, the light body, whatever you call it, the spiritual essence, the conscious, autonomous light being, it has matured. So the enlightenment is the moment when one's being has matured on a spiritual level. So it has gained autonomy. It can live within the body and it can live outside the body in different other dimensions, whatever the level of evolution, whatever, or depending on one's evolutionary level. So one can live on certain dimensions. And that moment of enlightenment doesn't mean that one necessarily leaves the body. One may dissolve the physical body. That would be spiritual liberation or moksha. Or one can just simply exit. But exiting the body, when the body is still in a state of... So the body has gotten enlightened as well. In that case, one can exit and come back. That's a rare situation because one has undergone certain spiritual transformation and maybe alchemically preserved or otherwise preserved the body. So even though one has gained spiritual enlightenment, so maturity, as a spiritual light essence, but also has liberated oneself, so one can exist within and outside the body. One is not bound to the body or to one body. So one has experienced the state of spiritual liberation while being alive, which is called the state of Jivanmukti, or in some other books it can be called otherwise. But it is a state of spiritual liberation while being alive. But if one decides to completely abandon this plane, this dimension, to never come back to it, one would dissolve one's body. And so when one dissolves one's body into nothing, supposedly into small particles. So that's the dissolution of the body, the complete dissolution of the body. And one just continues evolution in a subtle, in a light body. But if one chooses to still stay in the body, and also can exist in a free, liberated way outside the body and exist on different dimensions. So in this case, one would need to undergo a certain spiritual transformation, alchemical transformation, preservation of the body, so that this body can withstand high frequency, the radiation, the high vibration of one's light being. And so the state of enlightenment itself is just the moment of maturing one's light essence. So it means that one can now live within or outside the body. But the moment of liberation does not need to coincide with that, because the liberation, the moksha, means complete departure. But many beings just depart this plane for a while, and this while can be a while. It can be hundreds of thousands of years, can be some years, depending on the evolutionary purpose, the evolutionary state, whatever mission they have here on Earth. So that will define their timelines of being here on Earth and being outside the physical body. So usually in this case, someone will take care of the physical body if they're outside. And when we are awakened, it doesn't guarantee that we will reach enlightenment or some substantial evolutionary development in one life. So it may take lifetimes, usually it does take lifetimes, where we spend a lot of time refining ourselves, letting go of certain patterns, limitations, firstly on the individual level, then we gradually exit into a more collective, but this collective is still related to our individual self, our physical body, our genetics, ancestry, bloodlines, that material we borrowed from our ancestors that we are refining. So when we are refining our ancestry line or bloodline, you may say we're refining ourselves on the collective level, and then we go further, we deal with the other karmic residue on the collective level before we untie ourselves, dissolve all these subtle ties and connections and unbind ourselves. And even when we unbind ourselves, we may still have some kind of subtle ties. And even if we exist on a subtle level, let's say our body may exist for a long time, we gained longevity, we also can exist outside the body. We might still have some kind of a purpose here on Earth, whatever that purpose is. It's more with the alignment of our higher being, our now higher collective existence, and so on and so forth. So we may also have experiences from other dimensions and yet still need to have a physical body for whatever reason. So when people say that they achieve moksha or just exiting the body, that's a bit of a questionable moksha. But there is a chance that if these beings who exit the body consciously have a deeper realization of themselves and the reality in creation, they might choose not to come back. So they just choose not to come back, but they might still have some ties with with this dimension. Maybe they'll be watching this dimension subtly, or they will be just assisting maybe the beings here on Earth which were connected to them spiritually, and they may have the opportunity or that power not to incarnate by compulsion again. I wouldn't I mean, we as humans created a lot of different philosophies and put everything in a linear perspective. It's not so linear, but at least it is what it is. So Paramukti is that which is complete dissolution and the end of one's mission on earth, where one is not bound even on a spiritual level. So one no longer exists on this plane or on any other subtler planes which are connected to this physical plane. So that's a Paramukti or Paramparamukti. So there are different subtle levels of existence as well, and one continues evolution. And to know all these things is irrelevant at this point, because we are still on the level of self-healing. The majority haven't experienced awakening to their natural being. They don't know what natural being is, or even if they have awakened, they haven't aligned with it. They're still struggling, they're still facing the trauma, they're still facing a lot of pain and going through a lot of purgation, letting go, before they aligned and establish themselves in the awakened state. And once they establish themselves in that natural being or awakened kind of state, it's not something final, because from that point on, that's like a foundation. Once living consciousness starts expanding in awareness, it becomes more and more aware of subtler realms of different other things. It's learning, it's expanding, it's learning, it's gaining different types of knowledge, and this way it's growing towards the maturing. It more and more unties itself from different, limited ideas, thoughts, ideologies, I don't know, different kind of connections, understandings, whatever it is, on whichever level, until it starts vibrating pure being. And that is the moment where one feels completely liberated. And from that moment on, one is on the path of enlightenment, meaning one no longer drains oneself, so one is cultivating oneself. And it again takes time. One gains knowledge, one gains depth, one gains gravity, one gains deep understanding of creation, power, presence, deeper knowledge of creation on different levels, so that one can also understand one's physical vehicle deeper. One gains knowledge of self-preservation on the physical body as well, and so on and so forth. And so one is on the path to enlightenment, and when one is cultivating self-deepening, one doesn't drain, so one is enlightening oneself. That enlightenment is permeating through the physical body, and it also takes some time. Once the physical body is enlightened, it changes alchemically. One may also go a different type of alchemical transmutation, so that one strengthens one's physical body, so that this physical vehicle can withstand the enlightenment process. And after the enlightenment, it's one's decision only. It's about the time and how long one wants to stay in the physical body. Or if one stays in the physical body, one may sometimes leave the physical body and explore the subtle dimensions. So one may leave the physical body for a long time and then come back. It depends on that being. And as I said already, the purpose and the mission on earth, until the moment comes and they leave completely for good, meaning their cycle here is totally completed. And so at that point they might dissolve their physical vehicle completely, or if they don't want, they may turn it into a linga, or like they can bury it somewhere and empower that place with their vibrations, with their high awareness, which is far beyond the physical space and time. And that vibration will be perceived throughout time, centuries, on our limited dimension, and will have very powerful healing frequency, and kind of a frequency that will awaken, that will balance, align, and push the limited consciousness to look for the higher being, higher frequency, higher alignment, and enlightenment. Thank you very much. I hope it cleared up.